All right, guys. So we are here with Clifton Crews, one of my dad's other brothers, and one of LD and Gardis's sons. And what number son are you in, or child in the line
I'm
now?
number 5.
You number 5.
Yeah.
And
5 out of 8.
You're number 5 out of 8, and then out of the boys, you are
Number 2.
Number 2 out of the 4 boys.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm thankful for Clifton to have time to sit down with us and share with you guys some of the recollections that he has of growing up down on the farm. Frances said she didn't like to call it that she was from Gritney. She said she was on the other side of the creek from Gritney because everybody in Gritney was supposed to have been mean. So
We were mean.
So we were. So with that, let's go ahead and we're going to get started with our little interview with Clifton today, and hopefully share some thoughts with you guys that are viewing this later on down the road. So, what is Clifton? What's your full name, like your birth certificate would say? What is
I'm
that?
Clifton Eugene Crews.
Clifton Eugene Crews.
Ain't but one of them.
That's it. Now, what's your recollection of knowing how, and as I told y'all, I'll refer to LD and Gardis as Granny and Granddaddy sometimes, but what's your recollection of how'd your name come about? Do you remember that?
Well, I got an uncle, one of Daddy's sisters married a man named Clifton Lewis, and we always called him Uncle Son. And to the best of my recollection, that's where my first name come in. Now the middle name, I don't know where Eugene come from.
I got you. That's kind of like me with Hewlin Scott. I don't know where Scott came from.
Yeah, exactly.
I know where Hewlin came from. Do you remember where and when you were? I know you know when you were born, but where and when were you actually born?
I was born in Holmes County in Bonifay, Florida. Dr. Paul was a doctor in Holmes County at that time, and he had an office here in Bonifay. Gotcha. And I almost was a Valentine baby. I was born on February the 15th, 12 o'clock, something or other on the 15th.
Huh.
So I almost was a Valentine baby.
Just about made it.
Yeah.
And that was February the 15th of
1946.
1946. Whew, that was a few years ago from today.
Scott, if I see February the 15th of this year, I'll be 79 years old.
79.
And I've had good times and bad times.
Gotcha. Well, that's I forgot to mention to you guys in the first. This is today is actually January the 9th of 2025 that we're doing this sit down with Clifton today. So just for y'all's reference that are watching this. What's your recollection? And I'm doing this with all the brothers and sisters to see if this comes to. If it kind of is close
coincides together.
If everybody was pretty close, do you know how LD and Gardis met?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
That was just a few years before I was born and everything.
Right.
Now my older sister Frances, or either Hewlin, probably can remember, and Christine probably can remember how Mom and Daddy met.
Yeah. Well, the stories that I'm getting so far is that they met up on Highway 2 at Cruz Crossroads, around that area, and it was during a brush arbor, and Papa Barnes was preaching.
I recall building a brush arbor up there at Cruz Crossroads. Me and Tommy helped Papa do that one time. Yeah, sure did.
That was somewhere along that time before y'all was born when LD and Gardis, and he had to, it had to been some stuff going on for him to court a preacher's daughter, I imagine.
Well, yeah. Well,
LD was a little bit rough, I heard.
Well, LD Cruz was a mean man, but now he was a good man.
Right.
When he spoke, you better do what he said do. But then if he could help you and do anything for you, LD Cruz would be the first man on the
On
earth
site.
on site to help it go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll get into him a little on that in a little bit, but tell me a little bit and tell our folks that are watching this. You know, it's kind of hard when you're young, you know, in 3 and 4 years old to really remember a whole lot, but you know, around 6 years old to 10 to 12, you remember a little bit more in those years. What do you remember about those days? Anything
Scott,
you want to tell me?
the one thing that sticks out with me, and I may choke up a little bit.
That's okay. That's all
right. Daddy was a school bus driver. I was 6 years old, going to Bethlehem School, and there was a bus driver named Mr. Hang on a minute. Lewis Sanders. Mr. Sanders was a bus driver, and there was a little old store across the road from Bethlehem School, and we were poor coming up, very poor coming up. And I asked Mr. Lewis for a penny. You could buy 2 pieces of bubble gum for a penny back then. I asked Mr. Lewis for a penny, and he gave me a penny, and I went across the street and got me 2 pieces of bubble gum. Well, Mr. Lewis didn't think nothing about it, said how cute it was, but my dad didn't think it was very cute. So he asked me, and that's why I said my dad was a mean man, but a good man. He asked me, did I ask Lewis Sanders for a penny? And I lied to my daddy.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, no, sir. Well, Daddy already knew that I did. And that stands out with me probably. I'll go to my grave with that right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I lied to my daddy, and my daddy beat me. He had me by the hair of the head pulling me out the door. My mother and one of my sisters had me by the hand holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an old barn out there and had chickens in it. Daddy shut me up in it. And I cried till I couldn't cry no more. I was whimpering. And he come back out there and picked me up, carried me back in the house. On the way back, he asked me, he said, son, did you ask Lewis Sanders for a penny? I said, yes, sir, Daddy, I did. 6 years old, that taught me a lesson. A liar will steal from you, and a thief will lie to you. Mm-hmm. I hate a liar, and I hate a thief to this day. That's the one thing that'll stand out in my life to the longest day I live.
That changed you from 6 years old to where you at today.
Today, exactly.
And that's something you folks that are watching this right now need to learn from, is that that was one thing that the Cruz name was integrity and honor. And I hope you cruisers down the road are watching this and hearing this, that wasn't tolerated, and you had to learn. Some of us learn hard, but we learned that.
Scott, I don't tolerate it today. Yeah. Even though I got 5 grandkids and 7, 8, 9 great grandkids.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell them, don't tell me a lie.
Yeah.
Tell me whatever you do, tell me the truth about it. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's part of life.
That's right.
That's growing up.
Right. That's growing up. And you grew up early. I grew up early.
I grew up real early. Yeah. After an ass beating like I got from my daddy, mm-hmm. I grew up real quick.
Well, I can tell you the first beating, whatever we want to call it, whooping I got from Hewlin was me and the boys was out there at Bonifay Elementary School, and they had just not too long had that Western Auto open. Mr. Ingram, I think, owned it.
Mm-hmm. Carl Ingram.
And me and Randy Barnes and Rodney Martin and Charlie Harkis. We went in there. They didn't have Pee Wee football practice one afternoon, and we didn't have nothing to do sitting around. So we ran in there to the old auto parts, and they had just got them little old bitty match cars in there. And we went in there and stole a dang pocket full of them daggum little matchbox cars.
Whoa.
And we went around there, and you remember there was a little place in between the two buildings, and we
Little
went
alley.
down through that little alley right there, and
Uh-huh.
we opened them up just through the wrap or the things them cars was wrapped in on the ground. Mr. Ingram saw all of it, and he got them, and he called Ken Yates, who was the principal at Bonifay Elementary, and
Right.
said, "Got a little incident here, and this might be a good time to teach them young boys a lesson."
Right.
And when I got home that afternoon, what I didn't know was that Mr. Yates had done called Daddy, told him what on, and whenever I got there, Daddy, he played along like LD and just said, "Anything happened? Everything good at school today?" You know, I'm like, "Oh yeah, everything's good at school today. Nothing happened unusual today." "Oh no, sir." "You didn't steal some cars from the Western Auto?"
Hello.
And I was like, "Oh no." And I got my tail tore to pieces over that. And Daddy didn't take me back to Mr. Ingram's. Ken Yates took me and Rodney and Randy and Charlie Harkis back down there that next day at school, and we had to take those toys back and apologize to Mr. Ingram after, we done got our butts tore up about it. But I learned my lesson. It wasn't 6 years old. I was about probably 7.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
It wasn't probably near as bad as the one you got.
No.
Now, what about actually those early days growing up out on the farm? At that 6 to 10, 12 years old. Where do you remember? Where were you at Bob? Were you there at the Bob King place?
We lived at the Bob King place at one time. Yeah. I think that was I must have been probably about 3 or 4 years old when we lived at the Bob King place right there. I don't recollect a real lot from right there. I do know that there was a lake behind the place in there, and it's called Blackfish, and we would fish in that lake right there. Daddy farmed with a mule, and like I say, I don't recall a lot right there, but whenever we moved from there, we moved down to the old place down there, just out from Harris Chapel Church.
Bungalow.
And we called it the bungalow.
Yeah.
And that's where I started really paying attention to the lifestyle that I was being brought up in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hard lifestyle, but it was a good lifestyle. We whenever Mama would have to wash clothes, we'd get out there and pump the water and get her some wash pot full of water and the tubs, number 2 wash tubs, and Mama would take a rubbing board and clean the clothes like that, and they call what they call a battling stick, and she'd beat them out,
Mm-hmm.
and
And then hang them on the clothesline.
and hang them on the clothesline. Yeah.
And if you ain't never worn anything hung out on a clothesline, when it comes off that clothesline, it's about as hard as that table.
That's right. That's right.
Especially in the wintertime.
Yeah, it'll freeze. I've seen my mama hang diapers up, and they'd freeze time she could get them on the line.
Now he just brought something up really cool, y'all. Is that the diapers and things you use for babies today and in the future? I don't know what it'll be, but you didn't go to the store and buy diapers. You had cloth diapers, and they had to be washed out by hand.
Exactly. Every day.
And reused every day.
Yeah. You would use them till they never about wore out. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Golly. And then the bungalow, Francis was telling us about when LD was the county commissioner that they got that road paved up there.
Mm-hmm. That was in 59.
1959, that road was paved first time from the dirt, and the bungalow, the house was too close to the road, and they had to move the bungalow
to
get the road put in. They had to move the house.
Sure did.
And,
yes,
sir. I didn't know that, but I know that the bungalow's still standing, and we're going to show you guys that later on in some video. But that bungalow, I was telling telling our viewers that there wasn't no concrete slab.
Mm-mm. No, there wasn't no such thing as concrete back then.
Mm.
It was all wood. Wasn't no carpet.
Wood floor.
Wood floor.
And then, as Tommy was saying, he said when you got the green wood, and after that green wood would dry up, it'd open up a gap in between it. He said you could see the chickens under the house.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yep. Well, I tell you what, that's a memory right there. And I'll remember stuff like that till my death, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, talking about the bungalow, I may be jumping the gun a little bit, but talking about the bungalow, when I married Judy Scott. And that was the first place that me and Judy moved into. And we had 2 kids, Kevin and Carrie, and we lived there. Well, we did. It was so bad back then. The mosquitoes. It was hot. We didn't have a fan. wasn't able to buy a fan right then. But anyway, we let the windows up without any screens on the window. And I woke up one morning. It was in the summertime. Woke up one morning somewhere between 2 and 3 o'clock, and I thought the mosquitoes were going to tote us off.
They didn't come.
They had come inside that house and had my 2 young ones and me and Judy wrapped up.
Eat up with mosquito bites.
Eat up with mosquitoes. But now let me tell you, the next day I made arrangements to put some screen on them windows.
Yeah. Golly.
Yeah.
Well, that bungalow was it had a many families in that house, wasn't they? In its history.
Yeah. The living room, we had a bedroom, had a bed in it. The next room, we had 2 beds in it. In the next room, we had 2 beds in it. And it had a double fireplace, one in the living room and one in the dining room. And that's the way we stayed warm. Was in that old bungalow with 2 fireplaces.
There wasn't even no insulation thought of.
No, there wasn't no such thing as insulation back then. No. And the old house to this day don't have no insulation in it.
But it's still standing.
It's still standing. Yes, sir. Still standing.
We're gonna get that one. Yeah. Now I know some of the older kids, or brothers and sisters, went to Boniface some, but later on in your group, y'all all went to Bethlehem, right?
Well, they was 2 years. I think I was in the 1st grade. I don't remember if that was before I got my ass beat or after it, but I was in the 1st grade, and I think the 4th or 5th grade, Daddy changed us out from Bethlehem to Boniface, and then I went down there a couple of 3 years, and then we transferred, and I eventually graduated from Bethlehem.
Yeah. What year was that?
1966.
1966.
Yeah.
So you graduated 2 years before I was born.
Well,
right there.
Yeah.
Not too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you recall any of LD and Gardis's education at all? Did they ever talk about what they?
Best I remember, Daddy had a 3rd grade education, and I think Mama had about a 3rd or 4th grade education.
Yeah.
They were not able to go to school and raise a family. You know, whenever they got married and everything, it was one of those times that when it was coming up, it taken everybody and the family to make a living, and that's what my mom and daddy done. And after they got grown, and they got married and everything, and it was still a hard life, you know. Because I don't know if any of my brothers and sisters has mentioned this, but I'll go ahead and mention it. My mama was a real good provider. She had 8 children, and up until Cheryl, the 7th child was born, they were, well, from Francis's up till me and Tommy, They were like 14, 16 months difference between our ages. So that tells you right there that they were having good times and having a family, but it taking a toll on all of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I can sit here and I can reminisce about my mother worked. She would outwork an ordinary man.
Yeah, yeah.
She would go out in that field after she fixed breakfast, got the dishes washed. She'd go to that field and she would work till about 11 o'clock. She'd go home and prepare a meal. After she prepared that meal, she'd clean the dishes. She went back to the field. And she would knock off in time enough to have supper done for the family. And I know that taking a toll on my mother.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what I've heard from a lot of folks, and I like to kid and joke a little bit with it and say that she had raised 8. She actually raised 9, including me.
Yeah, exactly. She did. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Scott.
And
she raised 9 young'uns.
Yeah, and she. But I tell you that, like you said, she'd outwork any man any day. Whether it's plowing a mule, fixing a meal, whatever, she did it, everything.
I've seen her pick cotton. I've seen her plow that mule, just like a grown man. And she'd hit a snag or something or other. That old job down or middle buster would hit her in the side. She'd keep going. No saying is she'd take a licking and keep right on the ticking.
Gosh.
That woman was a tough woman.
Yeah, she wasn't a big woman either.
She wasn't. My mother was 5 foot. I think might have been 5'1" or 5'1" because Judy's 5'2". I think my mother was 5'1".
Yeah, yeah. And they wasn't an ounce of fat on her because she didn't have time to sit still.
No, sure didn't. Sure didn't.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So you graduated Bethlehem. What year again was that?
1966.
Yeah. Bethlehem. And
Yeah.
is anything in high school that really stood out to you?
The girls.
The girls.
Yeah, the girls.
Yeah. And how many did you have in your graduating class? You remember?
Oh God,
how
Scott.
many people?
At that point in time, 1966 was the largest graduating class that they had at Bethlehem. I want to say there was like 40 of us.
And you know why there was that many of them? I got a theory that these families was having so many kids that they needed to work on the farm.
Yeah.
And that's why there was so many of them around y'all
exactly
same age.
Yeah.
And they had to do that, or I mean, you didn't have.
You didn't survive if you didn't.
That's right.
You didn't survive if you didn't do
it.
Scott, I can relate to an incident that happened my graduating year. I don't know if Tommy told you about this or not, but Daddy drove a bus and we paperwooded. Okay. Back then it was a short wood, and Daddy got a tract of timber up there, in there around the Curry Ferry Road. Willard Rutherford had a tract of timber in there, and Daddy started cutting that, and Daddy would cut the timber down and cut it up, and what would happen would be we had the short truck, and me and Tommy would take that truck and we'd take our school clothes to the woods, and me and Tommy would go in there and load up that load of wood. Well, when Daddy got off the bus, Daddy would pull that load and have that truck empty when Tommy and I got out of school. Me and Tommy would get our school clothes on and go to school. Well, whenever we got out of school, we would change our work back into our work clothes and go back to the paper woods and load up that load. And when Daddy got off in the school bus that afternoon, he had time enough to carry that load of wood to the wood yard to have that truck ready to load up the next morning. For the next morning. And that's the way me and Tommy graduated, was in the logwoods.
God.
Now I'm gonna tell you this, and I'll tell everybody else this. There ain't no other way to put it except that was an enjoyable life. You think, well, you're stupid. No. No. We were doing that to make a living, and we succeeded at it.
Yeah, yeah.
We succeeded at it because my daddy was driving the bus, and he was getting paid for that wood. And that's where we began to get on our feet.
To get on your feet and get ahead in life.
Yeah.
That's what now I know you said the paper wooding and farming and all. What's some of your memories of? I know LD was one of his famous things was people knew him for was his cane syrup.
Oh boy, no. Yeah, I think we had 5 acres one year.
5 acres of cane?
Yeah, and we this is whenever. Let me back up a step. After we moved from the bungalow, we didn't know it, but Mom and Daddy in Hewlin, mostly Daddy in Hewlin, built the old place up there where it was about maybe 3/4 of a mile north of Harris Chapel Church. They built the house and we moved there in '59. Okay, then we had that cane. So Daddy got out there, him and Hewlin, and I don't know who else, built a big old platform. And we would strip cane and top it and cut it down and stack that cane on that thing. Well, Daddy had a cane mill that was PTO driven, and he had got a PTO part that would hook to it and pull the belt from the PTO around the cane mill, and we'd get out there at 5 o'clock in the morning and start grinding cane. And on the cold mornings, it would be so cold you'd have to take a lighter knot splinter and hold it down there to see how to feed the cane mill and keep your fingers
from getting sucked into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And y'all, the don't know what a PTO. That's called a power takeoff, and that's usually on the back of a tractor that spins, so it can spin a belt that hooked to a cane mill, and then you feed your cane down through that mill, and it would flatten that cane, squeezing the juice out as that cane went through those rollers.
Yeah.
So that's what a PTO is. If you ever wonder what that is, but that cane, that syrup though,
Daddy would start making the syrup, and we would, back then you could buy a half a gallon metal can and a gallon metal can from Bowen Hardware. Yep. And Daddy would get 2 or 3 boxes of the halves and 2 or 3 boxes of the gallons, and we would start grinding that cane early that morning, and at the end of the day, Daddy would be turned out anywhere from 100 to 120 gallons of syrup a day, just with a single cane mill.
Golly.
But now you had to stay right there and keep the juice afloat.
Do you remember about how much a gallon of that syrup
I think he was getting $2 or $3 a gallon for it.
Yep. That's about what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah.
So you kind of answered my question about kind of growing up with LD and Gardis, what it was like and all, and that was some good information for folks to see.
Right.
Now, when did you and Judy get married?
Well, let's see. She was my high school sweetheart. Like I say, I had several girls back then, but this is
you were a Cruz, right?
Yeah. We started going, I think she was in the 11th grade and I was in my senior year, and we started kindly cozying up to each other, and we just kept getting closer and closer, and we started dating on a regular basis. And then whenever it come time to pop the question, I asked her, I said, "Do you want to be my wife?" She looked at me real funny. She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Would you marry me?" She looked at me with a smile on her face. She said, "Yep."
And what year was that? You think?
We married on February the 4th in 1966. No, 67. 67. Yeah. February the 4th, 1967.
So you hadn't been out of high school very long.
No, I done fell in love with that woman.
Oh, she done grabbed you.
I mean, yes, sir. She put something on me Ajax couldn't take off.
Oh, goodness. So when did you remember actually finally leaving home? Actually, when you left home?
I left home in October of 67. I joined. They had the draft going in the 60s and all, and I didn't want to be drafted. I wanted to join, so I joined in October of 67. So see, Judy and I were only married 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah.
And Uncle Sam was going to get me anyway. So what do? You let him draft you or you join? So I joined. I joined October of 67 and went through my basic and AIT and wound up being stationed in Camp Drum, Watertown, New York. And got in an accident up there, had a grenade to blow up in my face and kill my buddy. And from there, it was a medical issue.
Yeah.
And of course, thank God, I survived it. I spent 6 months in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at a psycho ward. Whenever the incident happened, the guy's name, and I'll never forget him, was David Blasdale. And he was going to get married, and I was to be his best man. He'd done spent 2 terms in Vietnam and come back, and we let a grenade blow up and kill him.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Goodness. So that was kind of what, you know, right out of high school, getting married, going off in the service for a few years, and then did you just return back to? I come back
after the military discharged me. I come back home, and I went to work at Benson's, and Daddy didn't want me working up there. He pulled me out of that. Me and him and Hewlin went to logging, and seeing nobody couldn't make a living logging, so I decided I'd go to farming because my mom and daddy raised on a farm, made a living. I figured Clifton Crews could do the same thing. And I farmed for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years. Had 3 or 4 drafts back to back, and I lost my britches and my equipment and everything. But beside the point, I was still able to survive everything and overcome everything. And I went right on and decided I would do something that was beneficial for me and my family. So I got into the construction part of it. And I retired from construction. I started out as a common laborer, taking a shovel, digging the footers. And then whenever I got through with that, I become a rough carpenter. And I went from a rough carpenter, I went to a finished carpenter. And from a finished carpenter, I went to a superintendent. And that's where I retired from as a superintendent in the construction part of it.
Yeah. Now, and mixed in with that, you got a little into the politics along the way.
Oh, yeah. Back in 1978, they were trying to build a high school, and they wanted to call it Consolidation High School 8. And Holmes County wanted some of it. The big wheels, the money people wanted it. Mm-hmm. And I was against it. So I decided that I would run for school board member in District 1, which I was successful in. I beat out 2 opponents, and I only served 1 year, but it was because the issue was consolidation. If they'd have consolidated all the schools in Holmes County, there would have been 1 high school in Holmes County, and that would have been in Bonifay. And that meant a bigger basketball team, a bigger baseball team, a bigger football team. And that's what the money people in Bonifay wanted. Mm-hmm. Well, me and 2 more school board members fought that, and we won it. They'd already let the contract on it. So we decided you're not going to build it because in sports today, if you very athletic student, you have a name. If you're not in sports and all, you have a number.
Mm-hmm.
And that number is the little kids don't have the chance to participate in the sports.
Right.
So that's why that we defeated high school A, and they're still got the 4 high schools in Holmes County: Bethlehem, Poplar Spring, Bonifay, and Ponce de Leon.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I got 2 more questions, and the next one is that since she's not here to talk to me, I'm talking to all y'all about your sister Marie. And Marie was, by now they'll have seen the other videos about Marie passing away with cancer at an early age, but I don't want her to go unnoticed at all.
By no means.
Because she was a integral part of this family.
Right.
And I'd like to know what do you remember fondly about Marie that you can share with the folks watching this that she's not here to tell us today. What do you remember about your sister Marie?
My sister Marie and I were real close. They would have a dance at the National Guard on a Friday or Saturday night, and this was before I got married, y'all. But Marie and I would go out there and we would dance and have a good time. Marie was after that, Marie got married. Well, she was working as a nurse, and she got involved with the Paget drugstore, and she worked there some, and then she met Larry Hewitt, and they got married and had the 2 kids and all. But my fondest memory of Marie was all the time that we spent together as kids growing up. Yeah. And you couldn't have, I think she taken after her mother, because you couldn't ask for a better person to give and give and give and enjoy giving what she was giving. Yeah. And that was Marie.
Yeah. She died at the age of
32. 32, yep, and, with cirrhosis of the liver. And Marie never drank and never smoked.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, because we definitely want to carry Marie along with that.
Yeah.
So the last question is an easy one. Is there anything that you would like to share with the future generations that are probably going to be seeing this? And my goal was to talk to y'all firsthand, so that the people seeing this could say, yeah, that was Clifton. This is what he sounded like. This was Clifton, and all, and that's what they're going to be seeing here. But is there anything that you would want to share with the people 100 years from now that are watching this that you would just want to share with them?
What's a big one? But it can be simple too.
Yeah.
Be honest. Be fair. Treat everybody like you want to be treated. Socialize, make memories, enjoy life as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because you're never promised another day.
And don't lie to your daddy or your granddaddy.
Whatever you do.
Don't lie.
Don't lie. Because lying will get you nowhere. Yeah. Thieving will get you nowhere.
Yeah.
And I've got 5 grandkids. I love them all. And let me see, I got 4, 6, 7. I got 7 great grandkids. And I love every one of them.
And you might, if things work out,
I might get to see the 5th generation of the Cruzes.
And if we do that, we're going to have another video on that. We're going to get them all together where y'all can see them.
Yeah.
But we may see 5 generations
of the Cruzes.
Clifton's kids and grandkids have been what would we say, fruitful to multiply.
Exactly. And Scott, you're looking at two of my great grandkids right there.
Yeah. Let me wheel around there and say hey to them. That's two of your great grandkids.
That one's Warren, and that one's Kaylee Mae.
Well, hey y'all. Y'all say hey.
Hey.
Say hey, sister.
Now, how old are y'all now?
I'm 11.
You're 11
I'm 7.
and 7. All right.
7 come 11.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Well, good deal.
Yeah.
Well, those are kind of what I want to just chat with you and get some of those memories down on the video so that we can share that down the road. And I thank you so much for sitting down with me a
you're
little
plumb
bit.
welcome.
Maybe we might follow up in a few years. Or
Yeah, can't never
do
tell.
something else
Can't never tell.
and all. But y'all, again, Clifton Eugene, and we don't know where Eugene came from, but Clifton Eugene, Cruz, we appreciate you sitting down with us this afternoon and sharing some of those memories with us that we can hopefully pass on to the generations down the road. So,
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, y'all stay tuned. We got a few more of these to do, and we'll be back with you.
Y'all have a good one. Thank y'all.